Today we'll be learning about irrational numbers. Irrational numbers are numbers such as pi and square root. Okay, so today we'll be learning about rationalize. For some of you, this word might be familiar. Okay, so what is rationalize? So rationalize is the process by which a fraction is rewritten so that the denominator contains only rational numbers. Okay, I'll give you an example of an equation and let's rationalize it. Okay, so square root 3 over square root 5. Okay, so as you see, the denominator has a radical sign in it. So basically, we need to rationalize this so that the denominator does not have a radical sign in the denominator place. Okay, so by doing this, we're going to go square root 5. So by getting rid of the radical sign, we're going to times it by square root 5. And we're going to do it to both the top and the bottom. Okay, so by doing this, square root 5 times square root 5, which is square root 25. And square root 3 times square root 5, which is square root 15. And so we can reduce, simplify square root 25 to 5, and we can write square root 15 as square root 15. So that is our answer. As you see, there is no radical sign in the denominator place. So that means we will rationalize this equation. Okay, so now let's move on to another question. Let's do square root 4 over 5. So if you see a big square root covering both the top and bottom numbers, so you can rewrite it as square root 4 over square root 5. So basically, using the same method, we need to get rid of the radical sign. So by doing this, we're going to times it by the same number to get rid of the radical sign. So as we've done it to the denominator, we're going to do it to square root 4. Okay, so square root 5 times square root 5, which gives us square root 25. Square root 25. And square root 4 can be reduced or simplified to 2 and can be written as 2 square root 5. Okay, so the last step is to simplify square root 25 to 5. So that's our answer. As you see, the radical sign is gone. Okay, now let's move on to a harder question. Let's do square root 6 over 3 square root 2. Okay, so the first step is to get rid of the radical sign. So by doing this, we're going to times it by square root 2. So by the way, don't times it by 3 because it's not needed. We only need to get rid of the radical sign. So we're going to times it by square root 2 to both the top and bottom. Square root 6 times square root 2 gives us square root 12. And we can split this up in like this, so it makes it easier for ourselves. So square root 2 times square root 2 is square root 4. Okay, so square root 4 can be simplified to 2. So our last step, so 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. So our next, so square root 12, 2 square root 3 over 6. And then our last step, we can reduce 2 square root 3 over 6 to, as you know, 2 over 6 is reduced to 1 over 3. So we cut this to 1 over 3. And our answer is square root 3 over 3. Okay, so now let's move on to another question. Let's do square root 1 over 20. Okay, we can rewrite it as square root 1 over square root 20. And the first step is to get rid of the radical sign. So we're going to times it by itself. So square root 1 times square root 20. Okay, so square root 1 times square root 20 is square root 20. It's square root 20. And square root 20 times square root 20, which is 20. So the next step, so we can write square root 20 as 2 square root 5, and 20, and we can just go over 20. Okay. So, as you see, there is 2 over 20. So we can simplify this to, just 2 over 20 can be simplified to 1 over 10. So we cut it to 1 over 10. By the way, you cannot cut if, say, so instead of 20, if it was square root 20, you can't cut. You don't cut 2 and 20. Unless they're both rational numbers, not irrational. Okay, so we're going to write it as square root 5 over 10. Okay, that is our answer. Okay, so now let's move on to another question. So this will be a much challenging question. So let's do square root 8 over 3 minus square root 3 over 8. So we can rewrite it as square root 8 over square root 3 minus square root 3 over square root 8. Okay, so the next step, so we're going to rationalize both parts of our equation. So square root 3 times square root 3 and square root 8 times square root 3. And for the other side, we're going to go square root 8 times square root 8 and square root 3 times square root 8. Okay, so now we're just going to simplify. So square root 3 times square root 3, which is square root 9, but can be simplified as 3. Square root 8 times square root 3, which is square root 24. And then minus square root 8 times square root 8, which is square root 64, can be simplified to 8. And square root 3 times square root 8, square root 24. Okay. Okay, so our next step, so square root 24 can be written as 2 square root 6 over 3. You can look at my previous videos on square roots, so you'll have a better understanding of solving square roots. Okay, so minus, so square root 24 can also be written as 2 square root 6 over 3. Okay, next step. Oh, sorry, I was meant to write 8 over here. Okay, so we've reached the step where we have to cut. So 2 over 8 can be written as 1 over 4. So we're going to write square root 6 over 4. The 1 is not needed. You can just write square root 6. Okay, so we reach this part where we have to find the LCM, which you remember from one of my previous videos on how to find the LCM. So I'm just going to recap. So just going to summarize what we did. So 3, we just find the multiples. So lowest common multiple. If you don't know, so we're going to go 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20. Okay, so we cut out what's not uncommon in both the numbers. So 3 is not, 4, 6, 8, 9, and then we get to 12. So that's our lowest common multiple. So for both denominators, we're going to write 12. So it's over 12. So the next step is to go 12 divided by 3 times 2. So 12 divided by 3 times 2. So 12 divided by 3, which is 4, and then we go times 2, which we get 8. So it's 8 square root 6. And by the way, you leave the square root, so you don't do anything to it. Okay, so for the next part, we can go, so this time we have to go 12 divided by 4 times 1. There isn't anything there, which means it's 1. Okay, so 12 divided by 4, which is 3, and then 3 times 1, which is 3. So it's written as 3 square root 6. Okay, final step. So 8 square root 6 minus 3 square root 6, and we know 8 minus 3, which is 5. So 5 square root 6 over 12. So that is our final answer. So hopefully you enjoyed this video on irrational numbers. And subscribe for more content. So